Doctors are important. I'll say that again because this might have jumped. Doctors are important. However, you should be informed as to your own health. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. So this is a re-record of a podcast I tried to do while I was traveling a while ago. And that one, it was an interesting topic, but it sort of spun a little bit on me. I was closer to like 15, 20 minutes on it, and so I decided to bring it back in. And so what I wanted to do was talk about medical stuff today. Specifically, why you have to be informed as to your own physical health. Now, let me preface this by saying, doctors are very important. You should go to the doctor. If you are having a problem, and you can't just rub some dirt on it, I don't know that that's actually a medically based solution. And I recently learned that my favorite solution to cuts, scrapes, and everything else of pouring hydrogen peroxide on it is also not a solution. I was very disappointed by that. You should go to the doctor, but because, doctors are specifically trained to care for the human body and to get ahead of things. However, you also need to be informed as to your own health and as to certain things in the medical sphere. For example, when you are inside a hospital, the doctors and nurses, I can almost guarantee you, are working as hard as they can for you. But they also have a hospital full of patients. And doctors and nurses are human beings. Your care might slip through the cracks in the chaos of a hospital. That's not their fault. Blame the overworked healthcare system in the United States. But you have to be informed on a couple of things. And beyond, having to inform yourself if you have a very specific disease, having to inform yourself of the specifics so that you know when things are starting to, spiral a little bit. Excuse me. There's other things you want to be aware of too. And I'm going to try sharing my screen today because I think I can. Hang on. Google Chrome. Oh, come on, Google. What is this? Allow applications. Yeah. Okay. Unbelievable. We're going to do this later. Okay. All right. Haha. Incredible. Okay, so what you're looking at, beside the pop-up advertisements, or what you should be looking at, is BMI, Mrs. Normal Weight Obesity. This is on the livestrong.com. So naturally, I don't know what the necessary accuracy of that is, but the long and short of that, because we only have 10 minutes, I'm not going to make you read it. The long and short of it is essentially BMI, which is used as sort of a general measure of overall health in the human body, is just that, a general measure. It is a piece of statistical data over a larger population. Statistics are great for populations, they're often terrible for individuals. Why is that? Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at his peak, probably had a terrible BMI score. Why? Well, because relative to his height, he was massive. He was huge. I would imagine The Rock has an absurd BMI score. Now, granted, he's quite tall, so it may balance out a little bit better. But if you have a lot of muscle, and they would call it, I guess, lean muscle, I suppose. I'm not a doctor, but the term, I guess, would be lean muscle. If you have a lot of muscle, and, it is widely accepted, I talked about this the other day, that muscle is better for your body than fat. Again, statistically speaking, health at every size is a movement. I don't understand the health at every size movement. I know what the raw statistics say, that overall you're better off with more muscle than fat. However, a BMI score does not take into account where the body weight on your person comes from. So if you're 6'3" and you're 210 pounds, but you're, solid muscle, Well, your BMI score is going to be overweight at least, if not obese. The Rock is likely measured at his BMI score at obese. Okay, so you can obviously look at The Rock and say, okay, but he's an incredible athlete. He eats probably the cleanest of any human being on the planet. He has muscles where muscles, we didn't even know muscles existed. Right, okay. So on that end, you can sort of take care of that just based on a visual inspection. If you can see muscles where muscles weren't before, you're pretty confident the guy or gal is healthy. But what I shared with you on the Livestrong screen, and again, just so that we can see it, BMI misses normal weight obesity. Now that's interesting. What does that statement mean? Well, it simply means you can be a normal weight and be obese. Because if most of your body weight is fat and not muscle, you might look skinny. You might only be, I think it's like 6'3" and 185 to 190 pounds or something is a normal BMI. But if you ain't got no muscle on you and you're all fat, that's still not healthy. And the BMI score would mark you off as essentially being normal weight range, even though it's not necessarily healthy. Now, we look at that and you still can face those excess body fat risks. You know, if you are a normal weight but you've got a gut, the problem with having a gut isn't the fact that you have a gut. The problem is the fact that you have a gut is an accumulation of fat in the abdominal region. And that's actually considered, study upon study, that region is probably the biggest indicator of long-term poor health. Now, granted, those studies change by the day. So, don't take my word for it. Talk to your doctor. And doctors actually know most of this if you ask the question. But you have to know enough to ask the question. Again, we talked about this. BMI overestimates risk for some. Take a holistic approach to measurements. Now that is from the Livestrong website. So, do I necessarily want to take the advice of the guy who got busted for steroids? It's his company. It's not him specifically. But again, it gives you something to think about, and that's just one aspect of it. It gets even dicier when BMI scores are used to make assumptions about certain care going forward, as well as certain costs. So health insurance companies use the BMI score and punch it into their actuary tables as a way to determine how much you should pay in your premium. Okay. That's bad. Right? Because the reason they do that is because, statistically speaking, their actuary tables tell the company that, okay, this person has a higher BMI score. This means that in the longer term, they're going to need more care. So we're going to up their premium. And premiums are already hundreds of dollars a month. You can get assistance, right? There's assistance out there to help you, but hundreds of dollars a month is still hundreds of dollars a month. Thousands of dollars a year. It hurts. And these BMI scores can make a huge difference. But the assumptions that the assumptions made based on these scores are just one of a number of statistically based scores that generate assumptions in the medical field. For example, and again, this was in Grey's Anatomy. Take it with, the biggest grain of salt you can find. Grey's Anatomy is a soap opera, not a medical show. But EGFR scores. EGFR scores. A score used to determine how likely one is to tolerate a replacement kidney, I believe. That score is weighted with a number of factors, one of which is race. Another score I recently learned about, New Amsterdam, again, TV drama. I assume they did a base level of research for it, but that base level of research, they spun up the drama a little bit. Any score that takes into account race is making an assumption based on assumptions about a person's race. And those assumptions are often flawed. For example, there was for a long time in the medical field and for a long time in many fields, there was an assumption that African Americans had naturally a higher muscle density than Caucasians. And why is that? Well, sadly, we can imagine why that is. And we have to think about that kind of thing going forward, because if we're going to make assumptions about people based on their race and then subsequently charge them more or deny them care because those scores are going to be weighted against them, you're literally using someone's race against them as a means to deny them care or to make care so expensive as to make it inaccessible. BMI is a relatively innocuous assumption, but it is endemic of assumptions that are made in the medical field. Again, doctors, nurses, they are aware of these problems and they are working hard to both correct them and to overcome them in the interim. But this is why you have to be knowledgeable about your own care and advocate for yourself and know enough what questions to ask. If you are 6'3" and you work out every day and you're in good shape, you're one of those guys putting up 315 on the bench, you eat clean, and not just the guys who put up 315 on the bench. There's a lot of guys who are in shape without doing that. Talk to your doctor. Doc, I get that my BMI score is high, but what do I really need to be doing here? If you are able to ask those targeted questions and you are aware, even if your doctor's, if in the worst case scenario, your doctor's not helping you, that gives you the knowledge to say, okay, I know something is wrong. That's the worst case scenario. Likely you and your doctor can have a productive conversation about it. I'm into the 12.5-minute mark now because I felt this was important to get out. Once again, on this show, we ramble, we try to get to a point, we find the point, we ramble a little more, and then we sign off. And that's where we are now. This is more like 12.5 minutes with Nick, but the show is called 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.